In this video, you'll learn how to punish the bishop opening in the Italian game with sharp and aggressive replies, turning their slow setup into your fast attack. Let's dive in. Pawn to e4, pawn to e5, knight to f3, knight to c6, bishop to c4, knight to f6, then knight to c3. Now you attack the pawn on e4. Your opponent will likely try to defend it, leading us into the position we want. At first glance, it may appear that the pawn on e4 is well defended by white. However, you can sacrifice your knight temporarily to immediately regain it on the next move. This not only wins back the material, but also gives you the initiative and sets you up for a quick, aggressive game. At this point, the correct move for white is to retreat the bishop back to d3. I'll show you a great variation in that line shortly. But most players instead go for the most common move. Bishop captures on d5. Now you recapture with your queen, attacking white's knight. They will make a move to defend it, typically by retreating or supporting it, and then you develop your bishop, bringing it out actively. So far, it may look like white is doing fine, but in reality, they are already on the verge of trouble. You now have a very uncomfortable pin along the diagonal, and you can increase the pressure by advancing your other knight d4. Additionally, the move pawn to f5 is coming soon, pushing away white's knight and opening up the center. You may also consider castling to the queen side and then pushing your central pawns forward with strong momentum. If white tries to get rid of your active bishop by chasing it, you have a powerful counter-strike ready. Pawn to f5. This aggressive idea keeps your attack alive and puts white in deep trouble early on. I really love this idea because it works across multiple sub-variations within this opening. Here's how it goes. White tries to chase your bishop away, but instead of retreating, you strike back by attacking their knight. Your goal is to completely disrupt their position and ruin their pawn structure. In this particular game, white played knight to c3, aiming to counterattack your queen. But black didn't flinch. Instead of backing down, black continued pressing forward. Bishop to b4, pinning the knight to the king. Now the pawn on g4 is still under attack and cannot be safely defended. White decides to accept the bishop sacrifice, hoping to neutralize the attack. But then comes knight to d4, and black's assault continues relentlessly. At this point, the knight on f3 is attacked twice, and white has no good way to protect it. After capturing the knight on d4, black doesn't immediately recapture. Instead, black plays a brilliant in-between move, queen to h1, delivering a check and capturing the rook in the corner. Once the white king moves, black calmly trades queens and then recaptures the knight on d4, emerging with a winning position. White resigned just a few moves later. Now black is ahead in material. White's pawn structure is shattered, the king is stuck in the center, and black is preparing to castle on the queen side. A simple move like rook to e8 with check is coming, and from there, it becomes an easy win for black. But let's address the more serious scenario, the elephant in the room. Stronger players may find the correct move here. Bishop to d3. After the ensuing trades, Stockfish might claim the position is equal, and while that's technically true from a computer's point of view, the reality on the board tells a different story. Even in this equal position, white still faces difficult practical challenges. Let's walk through a few natural-looking moves. Suppose white continues development, and you respond with bishop to g4. At first glance, everything looks balanced, but this is actually very similar to the earlier variation we covered. Black still holds the initiative and has several powerful attacking ideas. For example, you can play pawn to f5 to kick away the bishop, then follow up with pawn to e4, taking full advantage of the pin along the diagonal. Meanwhile, you're ready to bring your other knight into the attack. Once again, black's pieces coordinate beautifully, and the pressure starts to build. Even though the evaluation may say equal, in practice, it's white who has to be extremely precise to avoid getting overwhelmed. Now, if white tries to eliminate that annoying bishop, the one pinning their knight, then things quickly spiral out of control for them. Let's say the bishop retreats, and white pushes pawn to g4 to chase it. Suddenly, you can unleash the same powerful tactical theme, pawn to f5. It's fast, sharp, and incredibly effective. I absolutely love this idea. Here's how it works. If white captures your bishop, you simply recapture theirs. The position explodes open, and in this case, it's even worse for white, because they've already castled. Their king is now completely exposed. If white captures on e4, you respond with queen to f6, adding more pressure to the weakened king side. From there, knight to d4 becomes a deadly threat, and the attack is unstoppable. You've completely dismantled their defenses, and the game is effectively over. Now let's rewind a bit. What if white, instead of capturing with a pawn, plays bishop takes f5, trying to keep the center closed? Then comes one of the coolest moves in the entire line. Rook takes f5. Yes, you sacrifice the rook. But this isn't reckless. The pin on the knight remains, and you're ready to pile on even more pressure. With white's defenses breaking apart and their king exposed, it's only a matter of time before your attack crashes through. This is a textbook example of the classical rule: 5 pieces putting pressure on a single pinned piece. And that's exactly what we're doing here. The knight is pinned and cannot move, because if it does, the queen behind it will be lost. That gives us a tremendous advantage. If white tries to defend the knight, we simply maintain the tension. We don't rush. We continue applying pressure, trading only when it benefits us and keeping the pin alive. Now white is already in a hopeless situation. No matter what move they try, you can capture the rook. You're still attacking, and now the queen comes under fire. You follow up by bringing your queen into the attack, and just like that, you're completely dominating the board. It leads to a quick and clean victory. And hey, sometimes your opponent might get a little salty after falling into one of your traps. Just smile and enjoy the win. White drops the f-pawn. It looks like a creative idea. After all, they were going to lose their bishop anyway, so they use it to expose your king. But in reality, it's a mistake. It backfires. You respond with pawn to d5, immediately grabbing control of the center and attacking white's knight. If that knight moves, you're ready to chase the other one away as well. You now have the bishop pair, full central control, and a dominant position. White might try knight to g5 check, but that only helps you. Your king steps over to g8, where it's actually safer. Now you're threatening pawn to a4, pushing away the knight on f3, and once that knight moves, the other knight falls next. If white tries to stop that with pawn to d3, you calmly continue with pawn to h6, kicking the knight again. After knight to h3, it's clear white has just spent several moves moving a knight from one bad square to another. At this point, you're so dominant you can even push pawn to g5, boldly threatening both knights. It may look risky, but your king is well protected, and white has no active pieces left to challenge you. g4 is now a very real threat. If white plays something ridiculous like knight to g1, it just proves how hopeless the position is. In this game, white chose to sacrifice a knight to open your king, but the attack went nowhere. Black continued with queen to e8, preparing to bring the queen into the action. After white castled and you developed with bishop to b7, the board was set for a beautiful tactical shot. White played queen to f3, hoping to exploit your open king, but you responded brilliantly with knight to d4, attacking the queen. If the queen tries to escape, it doesn't help, because you now have knight to e2, forking the king and queen. White's real idea with queen to f3 was to capture on d5 with check. It looks dangerous, but you calmly play bishop to e6, offering yet another piece. Now the crushing blow, knight to a 2 check. A fork. And yes, you've just sacrificed another piece because you're generous like that. But the result? Total destruction. You pally queen to h5, shut down any hope of counterplay, and finish the game in spectacular fashion. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this tactical masterpiece and want to see more ways to punish popular openings, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell. More brilliant traps are coming your way. See you in the next one.